Hi, greetings and welcome. Welcome to another video. This is a coaching video. It's a continuation of a lot of the other floats that I'll be making. Now, today, or this series, or this program, or this video even, I'm actually going to show you a relatively new type of float which has come onto the scene probably over the last few years. On the local rivers that we've been fishing, on the River Wye and the Severn and a lot of these fast moving rivers, there's a new species over the last 20 years have come into play to win a lot of competitions, and obviously anglers try their best to try and catch these fish because they're quite large. They range from like 4 or 5 pound up to double figures, up to 10 pound. One match on the Wye 2 years ago on the Wye, I had two for £20 in a match. So it goes to show you the importance of catching these type of fish. And the fish is a barbel. Now, the float I'm going to show you today has been developed by, I think, a couple of Midland anglers. It's a great float that works extremely well on fast moving waters and particularly shallower waters, and it slows the presentation of the bait up. We call it the, well, some people call it the Truncheon. I call it the cigar float. You can call it what you want, but for this video I'm going to call it the Barbel float. Okay, now this type of float, it's a very buoyant type of float, and it's made of balsa. That's what we use because balsa is quite buoyant. And the idea is to shape it in such a way it's almost like a large cigar. And the idea is when you shot the float, it's quite proud in the water. But what you do, you actually over depth the shot in, so you drag it along the bottom, and it sort of slows the float up as it travels along. Now, it's been proven many times that this float really works extremely well. Of course, personally, I think you catch more on the feeder with barbel, but then sometimes there's cases where you can't catch on the feeder and they do want this moving bait, or slow down bait, I should say. It also works well for chub and also dace and other species of fish. No further ado, I'll show you exactly how I make it and have a little chat along the way. Okay. The first thing we need to do is get a bit of balsa dowel. Got a long piece here, and I need to cut this for the capacity of float that I want to make. I've got an order for 3 sizes: 6 swan, 12 swan, and a massive 16 swan. And of course, the bigger floats are perfect, especially if it's pushing through harder. But I'll show you them now as we carry on, because the first thing we need to do is to actually cut the balsa for the capacity of float. Now, I know for a fact that 6 swan shots should be about 6 inches. So let's have a look. I'm going to cut it around about 6 inches. And what I'll be doing, I'll be cutting it with the axle blade. And then once I've cut a nice line on it, I shall then smooth it off, ready to mark the center of the float, so that I can put the spigot, which will contain the eye, on the bottom of the float. Okay, voila. Right, I've cut two, well, in fact I'm going to cut 3, and these are this is the body of the float. This should take about 6 swan shots. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to smooth it off on the edge. I'm going to make like a dome on the top. On the bottom, I'm going to smooth it down a little bit further, give it a bit more of an angle, where we're going to place the eye for to attach the float to the line. Now, the first thing to do, I've probably showed you this before, it's a centralizing tool that we use to get the center of the diameter of a dowel. I don't know if any of the viewers know exactly what it's called. I call it a centralizer, perhaps. Anyway, it's a handy little tool for those who are making floats. First thing we need to do is to place the tool actually on the float, and it will actually find the middle of the diameter. So what we do now is get a pen and we make a line, follow the tool edge, the plastic tool, if I can show you like this. Right, so there's the one line. So now I turn it 90 degrees and I place the centralizer in the middle, and I make another line, holding it firmly, and voila, I'm left with a central point where I now make the insertion for the base of the where the eye of the float is going to go. What I will do at this stage, I will actually, with a little file, I'll just put a little indentation in it so I know it gives me a guideline for where I'm going to put the cane spigot into. Okay, yeah. Okay, I think I need my glasses for this next bit so I can see in a bit more detail. Okay, now I've got the central center of the dowel, and I've made an indentation with the file, and now with the help of a piece of cane, I'm just going to put a little point onto the cane so that once I've got a point to it, I can push it into the balsa. Yeah, that's getting there slowly. So there, so that's a little bit of a point. And now I've placed this into the small indentation I've made into the balsa dowel, and what I shall do, I shall make sure that it's actually dead in the center, and as I'm twisting, I'm starting to make an impression and insertion into the dowel. By slightly turning it as I'm doing it, I'm actually tying up the center, making sure that it's all centralized. There you are, that's about there. So I'm just twisting that. Now as you can see, it's quite central. And then what I'll be doing, I'll be cutting the cane off there, because obviously I'll be whipping an eye on there. But the first thing I need to do is to put some super glue into the hole, and this will cement the cane into the center. So I'll just put a drop there, just a little bit, not too much, because if you put too much super glue, it forms a bit of a barrier and it's hard to sand down. So there, I'll just give that a second now, and then I shall be, for this time at the moment, I'll leave the long cane in it, because although I'll need to cut it soon, but it might make it easier for sort of shaping the float a little bit. Okay, so okay, you've caught me right in the middle of mounting the dowel onto my lathe, and what I've done, I secured the base with the cane, because the cane has dried now into the dowel. I'm holding it secure on the top so I get an even spin on the actual dowel itself when I start to shape it. Now I'm not going to do a lot of shaping. I'm going to just make a small point on the base of the float, and I'll just start a little bit of a dome on the top. So it shouldn't take me long, just take a few seconds to do this, so let's crack on. I just thought I'd show you a quick close-up then to the way I'm shaping the float, and I'm using this little handy tool you can get from a hobby shop. It's actually got sandpaper around this plastic holder, and it makes it easier to get into the lathe itself, so that I can create, if you like, the tapered finish. Much easier than using just paper on its own, because you need something a bit sturdy to hold it. So yeah, that's a little tip for people if they're making floats. Most hobby shops I think sell these. Okay, join me again while I'm shaping another float. I just quickly go through the methods and techniques on this float. If I can, I'll try and put a little illustration up on the screen in a minute so you can actually see the shotting pattern and how it works in the water. As I've already mentioned, you drag the bottom with your bait, and it slows the float up as it's going along the river, and obviously gives a chance for the fish to grab it as it goes past their nose. That's the theory on it. Now, many baits you can use. You can use maggots, of course, casters, hemp. You know, put a lot of hemp, put a bed of hemp over it. One of the favourites at the moment, and which seems to be catching a lot of fish, is pellets, halibut pellets. And you know, as long as they're sinking. And also, I see a lot of anglers these days fishing sort of downstream from them, which really is the way to fish this sort of float. You need to cast it sort of downstream and feed sort of downstream, and so that when you're mending the line, you're more or less in contact with it. Me personally, when I'm fishing most types of fishing floats, I like to fish it in front of me, so it gives me more of a swim to fish. But that's my own preference, my own personal choice. But I know that practically you're better off fishing the float downstream. Hair rigging pellets is quite good on this method, but I find them a bit tedious. I think you know, when the fish see the bait trundling along the bottom, maybe a banded pellet would probably be the best, or bunches of maggots, and or even luncheon meat. Luncheon meat's quite a good bait, especially a bit of colour in the water. But as I say, the fish has only got to hold on to this float, and you'll get an instant indentation. And in fact, in a sense, it's almost like a boat rig as well, because the buoyancy of the float will actually help to hook the fish as it's travelling downstream. So they're quite easy to make once you've got the tools. And you know, I certainly, if you fish the rivers, I would certainly consider having a couple of these in your box, because you never know. And if you're a match angler, you definitely need one, because these will catch fish when other methods tend to fail. So, as I say, it's the latest development on floats, barbel fishing and chub fishing, and as I say, I sell them on my website in case you can't make any. Okay, I'm just finishing off the finer detail of the float now, just by smoothing it down, trying to get a nice dome on the top, and just finding the last bit. So I got, as I say, I got two going on the go. Yeah, as I say, sometimes it's easier just to make two or even three at the same time, because if you make one from start to finish, you've got to start again with the other float. So if you do them together, at least it saves a bit of time, and you can basically follow the shape of the float you've done previously. So you know, gives a bit of uniformity. And that's it with the handmade floats. You know, it's difficult sometimes to get it exactly the same every float, but you know, you try your best. And the main thing is, as long as they work in the water, and that's the secret, I think, with float fishing. Right, now I'm going to do a quick test just to make sure that I'm on target for 6 swan for this float. So what I'm going to do, I've got my my toll jar, and I've got 6 swan shots, okay, attached to a piece of line and onto a silicone adapter. So what I'll do, I'll place this on the end, okay, and I'll just test it in the water now. So there you are, almost perfect. Okay, as you can see, I've started to shape it now. Got the dome, started to shape around the dome. As I said, I'll be whipping an eye on the bottom of there. Be painting it black, and then put a nice big blaze on the top. In fact, in between making this, I've been making the slightly larger ones. Look at those big mothers. 16 swans. Almost like a huge pipe bung, aren't they? But again, what I've done, I painted this one black, painted the top white, and I shall be blazing that over soon. And then I'll be whipping the eye on it. And then I'll be finished off with some varnish. And be a nice big float. Fantastic addition to the tackle box, especially if you're fishing for barbel. Okay, so I'm just getting the paint out now, just ready to paint the floats. I'm going to put the base on first. Now I'm going to put it on quite thick if I can, because although I've doped the floats already, I want to make sure that we have a very nice coating, because these have to be a hardy type of float, and they have to last, you know. Talking about the patrons page as well, by the way, even though you can subscribe, won't cost you anything, maybe $1 if you want to. I've also got a £10 or $10 a month page whereby I'll be giving, as well as the tips and all these videos I'm producing, you'll be able to see them firsthand, you know, before they're released actually on YouTube. And I shall be giving floats or products away to the sum of the $10 or the £10 that you subscribe. So for example, in this case, if you subscribe this week or this next few weeks, I'll be sending you 3 of these floats, yeah, just to cover your cost. And then the next month you got a choice of any other type of float. So yeah, got to be a good deal, that. Okay, getting there slowly. You caught me in the middle of putting some glaze on the top. No, I don't know if you can see that, but that's making quite a nice colour. Because I put a white base on it, it's standing out quite bright, almost like a Belician beaker. Yeah, just gradually go around the top of it. Yes, it's a bit cold at the moment out there. I had a winter league last week. I caught some nice chub. One of the lads actually caught 60-pound of barbel and didn't even win the match. He was second. I think he had 10 barbel. So that goes to show you that on average it was £6 a piece. He had them on the feeder, but I'm sure you may have had a couple on this float as well. Again, as I said, this type of float is ideal when it's, you know, pushing through, and you know you want to fish the float, because not everybody likes to fish the feeder, and sometimes the splash of the feeder spooks the fish, where, you know, float fishing you can cover more ground, and you can seek the fish further down the swim than you would on a feeder. So I'm just trying to get a nice edge to this now. There you are, look at that. Okay, I'll be finishing off obviously after once it dries with a nice neat line just around the base of the colour. There you go. So we're getting there slowly. The Barbel float. Okay, right. I mentioned, oh, by the way, I just had a quick trim. For those who've been following the vlogs, I've been talking about my haircut for a long time, so I thought about time I had popped on and have a quick trim. Anyway, right, I got one of these the larger Barbel floats or Barbel Wagglers already almost finished now. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to put the eye on the bottom, the metal eye, as I mentioned before. It's probably the strongest attachment for this robust float. You know, it has to be very robust. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the bottom end of the float. I'm going to splice the cane, just slightly. Okay, so I don't know if you can actually see that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring some cotton, which is what I'm going to whip the eye on, into the split. Right, I don't know if you can actually see that, but what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to follow the cotton up now. Just pick up the loose ends, so I get pretty close. Right, make sure it doesn't come out, of course. Now, when I get to that stage, I then place the eye onto the cane, and then I start whipping. once it's a bit fiddly, but once you get hold of it, that's it. Right. So again, you don't have to be exactly perfect as far as the whipping is concerned. You haven't really got to make it uniform, but as long as it grips, just pushing that in, make sure it's nice and firm like that. And then, as you see, I'm whipping the wire to the cane, and then I'll be putting a drop of super glue on this and then varnishing it, which will give it a strong hold and a strong grip. As I say, because these floats, you know, they're going to take a bit of bashing, you know, with the amount of shots it takes, and of course that's how a fish should be hooking and catching, hopefully. Yeah. Right, so as you can see, I'm almost finished with that now. Just whipping up to the top, make sure it's nice and secure. Then, as in a previous video, I'll show you how to finish off the whipping by putting a loop of cotton just before you finish. So what I've done here, let me just quickly show you if I can to the camera. Yeah, so I've got it down to there. Okay, yeah. As close as I can. Right, now a bit of I've got a bit of red cotton here, so you can see it. So I'll put that in the loop. Put the loop into the cotton, just twist that around so it catches. Now, not going too tightly, of course, just doing it nice and slack. So, yeah, a bit fiddly, but once you get it, that's it. Okay. Now, you just whip it around a few times. That's it, a dozen times, and it wrap right around it. Yeah. Once you've done that, you then cut off the cotton, pass this through the loop, and now steadily pull the red cotton, and that'll pull the tail end through. There we are. So that's come through the cotton now. So make sure it's nice and tight, pulling it so it don't slip, and then finish off by cutting it off. There you go, and there's the finished whip dye. Obviously what I'm going to do now is put a bit of super glue on that and then varnish it. So yeah, I'll show you now. Put the glue on, make sure it gets saturated, and then I'll leave this for a few seconds before varnishing the float. Okay. Yeah, it's about drying now, so I'm going to quickly mark it now because I want this white paper ink to dry before varnishing. So I like to put the capacity on from down the bottom upwards. So I'll show what we do. So it's 16 swan. As I say, these are just guidelines. You might have to play around with the actual exact amount of shots once it's on the line, but there you go. 16 swan. I suppose that's reverse there, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, and now there's your finished float. As I say, all I need to do now is varnish it. I'll give it a couple of coats. Now I'll put a little diagram of how it actually works up on the screen in a moment, but again I'll just quickly go through it. Right, by attaching the line through the bottom, of course, like any Waggler, you have to hold it. I usually put a couple of swans on each side, at least 4. Okay, that'll grip it. You have to use very heavy line for this type of fishing, by the way, as well. You know, at least 6 pound line, 6 to 8 pound line. Now, what you then do, you then on the bottom end of the business end, where your hook length and the hook is, you then start spacing shots out. So when you cast, don't forget to feather it like you would at normal Waggler. And then once it settles, all the shots will drag along the bottom of the river, and as the float pops along, obviously it's quite proud, and it'll sort of bob along, and then of course when you get a bite, whoop, as soon as the fish grabs it, it'll just disappear. Okay, and it's a very positive bite. As I say, it's a great concept thought of by some Midland anglers fishing the Severn, but it does work extremely well on a lot of fast flowing waters, especially when there's barbel and chub around. Okay, so hope you enjoyed it. Watching this barbel float, how to make it. I'm sure you know it's quite an easy float to make. You could probably do it yourself. If not, you can always pop over to my website and order a couple. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and share it amongst your friends.